My daughter screamed, "Fall already, old woman." Then I left a devastating secret at the hospital. The hospital loomed ahead like a haunted fortress, its stark white walls glowing menacingly under the flickering fluorescent lights. A jagged crack in the pavement led to the entrance, where echoes of despair spilled from within. Sarah's voice pierced through the night, sharp as a knife, as she yelled, "Fall already, old woman." The words had surged out of her mouth, dripping with equal parts hate and dread. Passers-by gasped. A chill ran down my spine. A little girl shouting at an old woman? Something was horribly amiss. My heart raced. Who were we now? Inside, the air was thick, almost suffocating. A woman in scrubs rushed past with a pained expression, and I caught the faint fragrance of antiseptic mixed with something more sinister, an undercurrent of fear that made my skin crawl. My daughter was shaking beside me, trembling as if she had just stepped into a nightmare. It was the perfect storm of chaos and confusion. The fluorescent lights buzzed incessantly, lighting up faces twisted in grief. In the corner, a family was gathered, their eyes red from crying, their hands entwined as if anchoring one another to the ground. Then, from somewhere deep in the building, I heard a bone-chilling scream. It echoed through the halls, wrapping around us like an invisible shroud. Child screams can twist your heart into knots, and this one felt like it belonged to us. And then, all the whispers, they whispered secrets in low tones. Murmurs floated through the crowd, words thick with judgment. "Can you believe she said that? Who does that girl think she is?" And something's not right here. The tension thickened. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. My mind spun. Secrets buzzed like angry wasps. What had stirred my daughter to venomous words? What truth simmered just beneath the surface? Was the old woman all right? I needed to know. The waiting room silence stole my breath, heavy with uncertainty. My hands trembled as I recalled the old woman's frail figure, a captive to her own memories. As I turned to find answers, a doctor emerged from the shadows. His face, pale as a ghost, told me everything without a single word. "What's going on?" I demanded, my voice shaking. But he only looked at me, his gaze haunted. In that moment, I realized we were all tangled in a web, and somewhere in this hospital, someone held the key to the terrible secret that could change everything. What had my daughter really seen? And why did I feel that our lives would never be the same again? The doctor took a deep breath, his eyes darting to the side, as if searching the chaos for a way out. "We're trying to manage the situation," he began, but his voice faltered. My heart sank. I could see panic churning in his expression, and it filled me with dread. "Manage?" I pressed, stepping closer. "Is she okay? The old woman?" He stiffened, and with that tiny movement, I felt everything unravel. The whispers around us tightened, cords ready to snap. "I can't discuss specifics," he mumbled, glancing back toward the hallway with urgency, "but please." Sarah's grip on my hand tightened painfully. She looked small, lost in the storm of adults caught up in their own fears. "I want to know." The doctor's face softened a fraction, maybe just enough to show mercy. "Just stay here. I'll find someone who can help." And then he slipped away, swallowed by the shadows. The waiting room felt claustrophobic. Every ticking second was another stab to my heart. I turned to Sarah, trying to mask my panic. "Why did you say that to her, honey?" My voice was barely a whisper, thick with concern. She blinked up at me, her eyes wide, but something darker lurked behind them. "I don't know, I just felt it," she stammered, her voice trembling. "Felt what?" Before she could respond, a commotion erupted. A gurney rushed past, nurses shouting instructions, their faces covered with masks, making their urgency invisible to those around us. I barely caught a glimpse of a covered figure on that gurney before it vanished into another hallway. The air crackled with tension, the unspoken fear floating like dust in the heavy silence. "What's happening?" Sarah's voice cracked. "I don't know," I replied, feeling that suffocating weight of helplessness wrapping tighter around my chest. But then, as if the universe offered a cruel twist, a familiar face emerged from the chaos. My sister, Jenna, stood at the entrance, her face pale and drawn. "Sam," she called, weaving through the crowd. I rushed to her, relief flooding me. "Jenna. What's going on? Have you seen Mom?" "No." I came as soon as I heard she paused, grasping my arm. "There are rumors. Something terrible happened tonight. In the ER." "Rumors?" I could feel the walls of reality closing in. "What do you mean?" "Just, people are saying a patient might have died. Something about an old woman," and Sarah's words, her gaze darted nervously around us as if the truth might leap out from the shadows. "Right." She yelled at her. My mind raced with snippets of horror, fear intensifying. What if it's somehow connected? Jenna shook her head. "I don't know, it doesn't make sense. But we need to be careful. We don't want to attract attention." "Attract attention?" I felt the walls closing in again, suffocating. I had to know what was beneath the surface of these hushed tones and darting glances. Should we ask someone? The doctor? Not yet. Let us find out more first. And then, just as we turned towards the corridor, another scream rang out, breaking through the murmur of worry like shattering glass. It sent chills spiraling down my spine, igniting fear in every fiber of my being. "Mom!" Sarah cried. I instinctively reached for her, pulling her close. The moment had come, the door swung open again, revealing a nurse whose eyes were wide with terror. "We need help. Now." What had happened? My stomach knotted with dread, and before I could take a step, my sister gripped my arm. "We have to stay together. No matter what." But I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to unravel in ways I couldn't possibly foresee. What darkness lay ahead? And who would emerge from this nightmare unscathed? As the nurse beckoned us into the unknown, the tension hung like a taut wire. I had no choice, I had to follow. But the feeling that we were walking into a trap tightened around me, and with every step, the question pounded louder in my mind: what was the ultimate price of the truth? The nurse didn't wait for us to gather our thoughts. She turned swiftly, her steps frantic as she darted down the corridor. The fluorescent lights flickered above us, casting unsettling shadows that danced along the walls. Sweat trickled down my neck as I followed, pulling Sarah and Jenna along, our footsteps echoing in the unnatural silence punctuated only by distant beeping machines and muffled voices. "What's going on?" I demanded, my voice more a gasp than a question. The nurse didn't answer. She threw open a set of double doors at the end of the hall, and I hesitated for only a second before plunging through alongside Jenna and Sarah. The scene that unfolded was chaos incarnate. Doctors and nurses swarmed around two beds, their faces locked in a grim dance of urgency. In the center, a body lay covered by a thin white sheet. My heart raced, it felt like I was being yanked into a whirlpool of fear. "Get the defib!" one doctor shouted, and another rushed to grab the equipment. They moved like seasoned choreographers, every gesture precise and urgent. "Is that?" I stammered, words failing me. "Keep quiet," Jenna hissed, but I could see the fear mirrored in her eyes. A cold sweat gripped me as I turned to Sarah, who stood wide-eyed, paralyzed by the scene. She had sensed something here, something darker. I slowly crouched down to her level. "Sarah, we need to leave. Now." But the words barely left my mouth when another scream ripped across the room. A nurse, standing near the covered body, stumbled back, her hands flying to her face. "No. No. It can't be, not her." My stomach dropped. I had no frame of reference for this, but a profound sinking dread began to take root. Who is it? Who is she? I asked, heart pounding, but the room erupted into panic again, drowning my plea. Jenna grabbed Sarah's hand. Come on. We can't be here. Just then, a figure stepped into the fray, an older doctor, his forehead drenched in perspiration. He locked eyes with me, a flash of desperation piercing through the chaos. You have to leave now. Why? What's happening? Please. He yelled, his voice a strained whisper. It's not safe. You don't understand. I glanced back at Sarah, whose small frame shook with confusion and fear. Something clicked in my mind. The old woman. The panic. Wait. We have to help. No. You don't get it. Before he could finish, the world around us plunged into silence as the machines around the bed fell quiet, a chaotic calm that descended like nightfall, and that's when I saw it. A flicker of movements near the edge of the curtain, a shadow slinking away. I barely had time to process it before the older doctor sprinted toward where it had vanished. Stop. I shouted, leaping forward. Jenna held Sarah back, clutching her tightly. You don't want to go there. The doctor yelled back, but I was already racing after that shadow. Fury and confusion propelled my feet, and as I rounded the corner, I was met with the stark light of a different hallway that seemed to breathe secrets. The figure darted toward a set of stairs leading down. Stop. I cried again, but my voice was swallowed. My heart raced, pounding in my ears above the chaotic lurch of the hospital. Why were they trying to hide? What truth was buried in the depths of this place? Just before I reached the steps, I froze. From behind, I heard Sarah's voice break the tension. Dad, what's happening? And in that moment, clarity struck me like lightning. Whatever was down those stairs might hold the truth I so desperately needed, but I knew some truths could cost everything. I turned back toward my children just as footsteps thundered behind me, and the world slipped further into chaos. What lay at the heart of this hospital, waiting to be uncovered? What had happened to the old woman? I had to know, even if the price would be our very souls. I stood at the edge of the stark, sterile stairway. A chilling breeze brushed past me, carrying with it whispers of unease. The echoing footsteps behind me grew louder, a siren call of urgency that clashed against the pounding of my heart. I felt Jenna tugging nervously at my sleeve, her slight frame trembling against my side. Please don't go down there. She begged, eyes wide, capturing a deep fear I couldn't shake myself. But Sarah's voice cut through the chaos, sharper and more accusing than I was prepared for. Dad. You don't even know what's down there. I looked at my girls. The air felt thick with panic and dread. Every ounce of me wanted to grab them and run, to escape this horror show of flashing lights and frantic voices. But a deeper instinct pulled me, a relentless drive to uncover the truth. Just stay close, I murmured, glancing over my shoulder as the sound of rushing feet neared. I had to know what happened to the old woman. The weight of my decision pressed painfully on my chest, but the pull of the unknown was stronger. With one last look back at Sarah, who now clutched Jenna's wrist like it was her only lifeline, I stepped cautiously down the first few stairs. The noise above began to fade, replaced by an unsettling quiet that enveloped me like a warm blanket, thick and suffocating. What I found at the bottom of those stairs was more than I ever expected. The flickering fluorescent lights cast erratic shadows over a narrow hallway littered with dark stains on the floor. Was it blood, or something worse? I couldn't tell. As I moved deeper into the abyss, each step echoed ominously against the cold walls, each sound ricocheting back at me like a warning. At the far end of the corridor, a door swung slightly ajar, an unnatural thing in the otherwise still air. Heart hammering, I could feel my instincts fighting against one another. Part of me screamed to turn back, to flee from whatever darkness lay beyond, while another part, something primal, urged me to push through. And then, a sudden sound came from behind the door. A soft, pained moan. Tension knotted in my stomach. I took a step closer, breath hitching as I leaned closer to listen. Help! The voice was a pained whisper, quivering with desperation. It was a woman's voice, and there was no mistaking the panic within it. "Help me, please." My throat tightened. This felt wrong. So terribly wrong. I reached out, my fingers brushing the cold metal of the doorknob. "I'm coming in," I said, steeling myself for whatever lay behind it. Before I could twist the knob, footsteps jolted me from my intent. An energy surged behind me, quickening and chaotic. I turned sharply as the older doctor appeared by the stairs, his face contorted with fury. "Get away from that door," he shouted, his eyes wild and desperate. An electric surge of uncertainty coursed through me. "Why? Who's in there?" The doctor lunged forward, panic etched into every line of his face. "You don't understand. You can't let her out." She asked, but before he could finish, a loud crash reverberated through the hall, drowning out his warning. The door shattered open. And in that moment, the world exploded in chaos. A figure emerged, staggering out of the darkness, a figure I would never forget. "Dad!" Sarah's piercing scream sliced through the chaos, and I spun just in time to see a shadow lunge into the glow of the fluorescent lights, a flash of recognition and horror flooding through me. "What did you bring back?" The doctor's voice trembled as he pointed, and it was then that I realized we were not alone down here. What had I unleashed? Who or what had I turned around to face? "Run!" I yelled, but instead of fleeing, curiosity gripped me tightly. In the darkness, a secret was surfacing, a tangled web of fear and lies, and I stood in the epicenter, caught between the past and the dark specters of the present. What had the doctor meant? What was so dangerous about that voice? As the shadows danced and the air thickened with tension, I wondered what lay ahead, buried in the depths of this hospital, waiting to emerge. The figure stepped into the harsh light, and I froze. It was a woman, her clothes tattered and soaked. Her face was pale, streaked with dirt and something darker that I wished to dismiss as mere shadows. The moment her eyes locked onto mine, an icy shock shot through my veins. "Help me!" she cried again, her voice ratcheting up in urgency. "You must help me. They'll come for me. Stay back!" the doctor shouted, throwing himself between us. His eyes darted around as if he expected something sinister to leap from the shadows. "You don't know what she is." But how could I not respond? Her fear was palpable, a living force that pulled at something deep inside me. "Let her speak," I demanded, stepping forward, the instinct to protect overwhelming the voice of reason in my head. The woman fell to her knees, gasping for breath. "Please. They're coming, they're always coming." She looked over her shoulder, her wide, frantic eyes darting back and forth. "They'll know you let me out." Jenna whimpered, clinging tighter to Sarah, who was frozen like a statue. The tension in the air crackled, splitting my focus. I couldn't shake the sense that we were all being watched from the shadows, eyes peering out to consume us whole. "What do you mean?" I pressed, my voice steady in contrast to the chaos folding around us. "Who is coming?" She looked up at me, her eyes glistening with tears, desperation pouring from her every word. "The voices, they're real." Just then, a loud thud echoed through the hallway, causing the walls to tremble and sending a jolt through my heart. I glanced at the doctor, who grimly tightened his grip on a nearby metal pole. "Shut her up!" he yelled, his face contorted in fear. "Silence her now, before it's too late." "Before what?" I shot back, struggling against the rising dread clawing at my throat. "What does she know?" But the woman was frozen in terror. "You don't understand," she gasped, pressing her hands to her ears as if the very air was heavy with threats. "They'll come." A new set of footsteps erupted from the darkness. Heavy and thudding, they collapsed upon us like a freight train, each step vibrating through the floor. My gut twisted, each heartbeat echoed louder than the last. "Get back. We have to move." The doctor's voice surged above the impending doom. "Now." Sarah's scream echoed in the air again, sharper this time. "Daddy, please." I swung my gaze between the woman on the floor and my daughters, torn in two. Fear gnawed at my insides, threatening to uproot the fragile remnants of calm I clung to. Don't leave us. Jenna cried, but I felt the weight of a decision closing in, a suffocating realization that whatever threat lay in this hospital was closer than I thought. I grabbed Sarah's hand, pulling Jenna behind me. We need to go, now. With that, we ran, fear propelling us back toward the stairs. The sound of the figure's desperate pleas faded behind us, a haunting echo mingling with the thundering footsteps gaining ground. The darkness seemed to stretch after us like a living thing, snarling, desperate to draw us back. Each step felt heavier, panic suffocating me as I reached the stairwell. We had stepped into a nightmare, but this felt like the beginning of something sinister, something I had set into motion. What would happen when we reached the surface? Would we be safe? Or had we merely awakened a beast that would hunt us relentlessly? As I glanced back, the hallway swallowed in shadow, my mind raced. What had I just unleashed? And would it come for us next? With each step taking us away from that nightmare, I knew one thing for certain: the worst was yet to come. The echo of our hurried steps reverberated through the stairwell as we descended. My heart thundered in my chest, a relentless drumbeat underscoring the alarm swelling inside me. I stole a glance back toward the narrow hallway, holding my breath. I couldn't shake the feeling that the darkness was clawing at my heels, trying to drag me back to whatever horror lurked in that room. "Daddy, please." Sarah whimpered, her tiny hand slipping slightly from my grip. "Hold on tight, sweetheart," I urged, squeezing her hand tighter, steadying myself with the warmth of her skin. Jenna pressed close behind me, her breath quickening. Down, down, we went, flights of stairs unspooling before us like a twisted ribbon of dread. I cursed myself for not preparing for such an outbreak of chaos. The sterile smell of the hospital that once felt familiar now wrapped around me like a shroud, suffocating and oppressive. "Is she still behind us?" Jenna's voice trembled, and I felt her fears like daggers piercing my armor. "I don't know," I gasped, trying to keep the panic from spilling into my voice. "Just keep moving." At last, we reached the final flight and I burst through the door at the bottom, tumbling into the lobby. The bright fluorescent light stung my eyes, and I squinted into the wide-open space. Out there, people milled about, oblivious to the storm that had just swept through the upper floors. How could they not sense the tension? How could they not see the threat looming just above? "Help! Somebody!" I shouted, realizing how desperate I sounded, as if screaming could stave off the enemies pursuing us. Several heads turned, eyes widening in confusion. But before I could approach anyone, a crash echoed from above, a deafening sound that felt like the collapse of the very foundation of the world pressing down on us. My stomach dropped. Whatever came next would be worse than the terror that had chased us down. "Daddy, what's happening?" Jenna's voice quivered, and I could see the shadows of fear dancing across her face. "People are coming. We have to find a safe place," I said, searching for a way out. Behind me, the stairs loomed like an ominous portal to a greater danger. I needed a distraction. I spotted a fire exit to the left, its steel door slightly ajar. "There. This way." I gestured, dragging my daughters toward it. As we slipped through, my heart raced not just from fear but from the urgent need to protect them, to keep them safe from whatever was waiting in the darkness above. The door clicked shut behind us, muffling the chaos outside. The hallway beyond was lined with emergency exit signs, glowing ominously but casting an unsettling orange hue on the walls. I walked briskly, knowing we couldn't stay hidden for long. As we rounded the corner, a flickering shadow caught my eye, a movement I couldn't dismiss. "Stay close," I ordered, glancing back at my girls, who now clutched each other, their faces drawn tight with worry. I felt their fear coursing through me, igniting a fire of protective instinct. We turned another corner, and suddenly, we were met with two sets of unyielding steel doors, one marked "Authorized Personnel Only." My breath caught. It felt like a choice between life and death, a chilling reminder of the secrets that lay within this hospital. "Daddy, I don't want to go in there." Sarah whimpered, her small face pale and fearful. "Neither do I, but we have no choice," I muttered, my heart racing as I pushed open the door. It groaned ominously, as if protesting our entrance. Inside, pitch darkness enveloped us, the air thick like fog, smothering any sense of safety. That heavy tension, a substance I could practically feel wrapped around us. I could barely see, but I knew that whatever waited within that shrouded world was worse than anything I imagined. Something terrible is here, I whispered to myself, dread settling like lead in my stomach. Suddenly, from the depths of that darkness, a single voice broke through. It was familiar. Haunting. Mama? A chill coursed through me. Sarah's eyes widened and she clutched Jenna tightly as I felt a cold wave wash over me. What had I stepped into? And what dreadful truth waited for us in the dark? Who's there? I called out, my voice trembling, threatening to give way to fear. A moment of silence stretched before the answer arrived. And then I heard it, a soft, desperate sob, echoing back through the shadows with an unyielding power. Help me please. Who or what was truly in danger? As I stepped farther into the darkness, I feared I was about to discover a truth that may haunt me forever. I tightened my grip on Sarah's hand, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. The sob still resonated in my ears, a chilling plea woven through the veils of shadow. We'd crossed a threshold I now wished we hadn't. Stay close, I instructed, my voice steady but strained. Jenna nodded, though her wide eyes said she wasn't as convinced as I was. The darkness felt alive, wrapping itself around us, whispering secrets that scratched my skin and crawled under my thoughts. Please. The voice drifted closer, a thread of anguish pulling me deeper. I hesitated, battling with the terror that threatened to consume me. Daddy. Sarah's voice barely broke through the murk, a faint beacon of innocence trying to pierce through my rising dread. Suddenly, a flicker of light caught my eye just for a heartbeat, illuminating the outline of a figure perched against the far wall. My stomach twisted as I squinted hard, but the moment the figure came into view, it vanished. Did you see that? I whispered, hoping my girls hadn't noticed. But Jenna gripped Sarah instinctively, a silent admission that yes, they had. Who's there? I called again, a tremor in my throat, desperately searching the darkness. Silence answered me. The pulse of my heart quickened. I took a cautious step forward, the air thick with an unshakable weight that stung my lungs. A foul smell lurked, mixing with the sterile scent I had come to despise. Then, a sudden crash echoed behind us. The door, our fragile barrier between the known and the unknown, slammed shut. Panic flooded my body. I spun around, but darkness engulfed the door, swallowing every light, every hope. Daddy! What do we do? Jenna squeaked, her breath hitching. Shoo, I hissed, my voice low and controlled, desperately trying to stem my own rising fear. The sobbing voice returned, more urgent now. You have to help me. Help who? I shouted, stepping further into the blackness, searching for the source. There was something unyielding in its tone, a familiar sorrow that pricked at my memories. Please, it pleaded again, tugging at threads of my heart I thought were long dead. Where are you? I yelled, frustration creeping in. Show yourself. As if obeying my command, the flicker of light returned, illuminating a woman hunched against the wall. My breath caught in my throat. Her face pale, gaunt, wild eyes stirred shards of recollection. Mama? Sarah whispered, stepping slightly forward. No. I shouted, grabbing her arm, my gut twisting with fear. Stay back. Mama. The figure rasped again, her knees pulling closer to her chest. I could see scars lacing her arms, deep and haunting. What had happened here? What terrible secret had I stumbled into? Mom? Jenna's voice cracked, her innocence hanging in the air thick with confusion and dread. Panic flickered in that moment, a palpable thing separating us and yet binding us all, this woman, my daughters, and me. Her eyes locked onto Jenna, widening with a terrible recognition. You shouldn't be here, she hissed, a sharp warning that sent chills spiraling down my spine. For a flickering moment, I felt sympathy clawing at my heart, but then I pushed it down. I shoved the thought aside. Whatever connection we shared felt tainted, corrupted. Let us go. I said, my voice rising louder now, panic overrunning my thoughts. I turned away fast, leading Jenna and Sarah back the way we'd just come. My heart raced as I felt that primal urge of flight pulling at my instincts. But as I reached for the door banging against the metal frame, the cold steel felt sticky, like it had been touched by something dark and terrible. "Help me!" The voice, a low, sorrowful whisper, chased us, echoing within the murky air. With one final glance over my shoulder, I took in the face of what once might have been my wife. "Help yourself first," I murmured, almost to myself, pushing the door hard until it swung open. Freedom awaited on the other side, yet I was trapped in the juxtaposition of wanting to run and needing to understand. The silence of the hallway flickered uneasily in contrast with the chaos echoing from above. How many more secrets lay hidden in these shadows? And were my daughters safe, or just stepping into another nightmare? We needed answers, but at what cost? What if saving one meant losing another? A soft thud echoed behind us, snapping my thoughts like a twig. "Mama, come back," a voice whispered from the shadows above. What new truth awaited? And would I have the courage to face it? The corridor ahead was a ghostly white, contrasting the suffocating darkness we had just fled. But as our eyes adjusted to the light, dread clawed into my gut. The shadows of our past loomed larger than the looming night. "Daddy?" Jenna's voice broke through my haze, trembling with confusion. What was that?" I paused, bracing myself against the wall as anxiety boiled in my chest. "I don't know." "It was your mother," I replied, choking on my words. The truth felt like shards of glass lodged in my throat, cutting me with every breath. Why did she look like that? Sarah's innocent question pierced me deeper. I swallowed hard. Let us just keep moving. We need to find a way out of here. The flickering lights above buzzed, mimicking the anxious energy I felt. I turned, propelling us down the hallway, each step a tether to our uncertain future. But just as we made it a few feet, our escape was interrupted. A loud bang echoed from behind us, where the door had shut. The sound reverberated against the sterile environment, echoing with a terrifying rhythm. I resisted the urge to look back. The suffocating pull from the darkness felt too strong, too invasive. "Daddy, what if she's hurt?" Jenna asked, her desperation like a plunge into icy water. "It doesn't matter," I snapped, then quickly softened my tone. "We can't help her now. We need to focus on getting you both to safety." The words hung heavy in the air, a bitter pill that I couldn't swallow. What kind of man was I, leaving my wife in such a state? Blood drained from my face as guilt gnawed at my insides. But I had my daughters to protect. As we rounded a corner, an overwhelming sense of foreboding wrapped its icy fingers around me. We entered an atrium, slick and polished but chillingly sterile. Massive glass windows illuminated the space, and I felt momentarily relieved that we could see, but that relief shattered fast. The floor was littered with papers, and in the corner a child's toy, a small, disfigured doll, one eye hanging looser than the other. Its presence was unsettling, like a forgotten promise. My stomach soured. "Daddy," Sarah whimpered, pressing her small frame to my side. "Stay close," I barked, scanning the area. Something felt wrong, too quiet, too deliberate. My heart raced as I noticed a figure flitting through the shadows near the doors leading to the exit. A trembling form, darting away from the light. "Who's there?" The figure froze, then turned slowly, the hallway's light revealing pale skin and wide, hollow eyes. My breath hitched in my throat. It was another woman, equally gaunt, her lip quivered wordlessly as she pointed down the hallway. "Help them," she croaked, voice trembling with urgency. My instinct screamed for me to run. "Help who?" I managed, my puzzled heart pounding. "The children," she whispered intensely, and then seemed to melt back into the gloom. "No, no," I shouted, chasing after her. But all the darkness swallowed her whole. I stumbled back, disoriented. What's happening? Jenna's fear was palpable, her voice a soft whimper in the thick air. I shook my head, lost. In that moment, all paths seemed to lead us deeper into the unknown. I turned and gripped Sarah tightly. "We can't waste time here." I moved across the floor, my pulse hammering against the dread closing in. Suddenly, the lights flickered ominously, and for a heartbeat, the world plunged into a suffocating darkness. No! Jenna screamed, and Sarah clung to me, her breath like a warm gust against my arm. Then, just as swiftly, the lights returned, but the atrium was changed. The door we had entered was gone, replaced by a wall of smooth glass, opaque and unyielding. What did we do? Jenna whimpered, backing away. Nothing. Just stay calm. We'll figure this out, I said, panic twisting in my gut. But then I heard it. A laughing voice broke the silence, its echo reverberating off the glass. You shouldn't have come here. Who are you? I shouted, urgency boiling into rage. Just one waiting for their turn. My heart dropped at the sinister promise, and a flicker of movement caught my eye, another shadow brushing against the glass, but this time I sensed malice behind it. Dread pulled in my stomach as I realized we were not alone, and just beyond that fragile boundary waited something with unfinished business. What other horrors lurked in the shadows? And would I be able to protect my daughters from the truth that was already clawing its way into our lives? The laughter faded, but its chilling remnants clung to the air like a storm cloud, heavy, pregnant with tension. I glanced down at my daughters, their faces pale against the growing darkness. Jenna's eyes shimmered with tears, while Sarah's grip on my arm tightened to the point of pain. Daddy, it's too dark. I want to go home, Jenna whimpered. Me too, Sarah echoed, her voice barely a whisper. I bit my lip, desperately searching for a plan. Whatever haunted this place, whatever that pale woman had meant by help them, I wasn't ready to find out. But there was no turning back now. I took a breath, steeling myself. Let us find a way out together, I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. The lights flickered once more, casting long shadows across the atrium. Each pulse of electricity felt like a countdown. I could feel time slipping away, each second stitching a tighter web around us. As we approached the glass wall, I noticed strange shapes moving on the other side. I stepped closer, peering through the murky surface. My heart sank. Beyond that transparent barrier, I saw silhouettes of children, their heads bent. They were playing, or were they? Something about the way they moved sent shivers down my spine. Daddy! Jenna squeaked, her voice a high-pitched burst. Look! Are those kids? I don't know. Stay back, I warned, pushing her behind me. The instinct to protect them bubbled within, an ancient, primal urge. What if those children were the ones the woman spoke of? What if they were trapped? Help them, the words echoed in my mind. Heat mounted between my temples. I felt torn, like a seam ready to burst. Just then, the figures turned, and I froze. Their faces were gaunt, almost skeletal, sunken eyes riddled with despair met mine in an unholy communion. But there was one child, a girl, who stepped forward, her features distorted by the glass. Help us please, she mouthed, her voice muffled, yet somehow I understood, the words resonating deep within. What do you want? I stammered, glancing back at my girls. The reality of the moment was too heavy, and my chest felt tight. I was failing them. Join us, the child rasped, each word laced with a cruel sweetness that made my skin crawl. Get away from that glass. I shouted, grabbing my daughter's hands, feeling the tremor in my own. Panic surged. The walls felt like they were closing in. Why? Jenna asked in confusion. They need help. They aren't the children you think they are, I said, backing away. We have to find another way out. The laughter returned, but now it sounded different, like a mockery. You'll all join us soon enough. An electric flash lit the room, illuminating the hallway beyond in a brief, blinding flash. For a moment, I thought I saw shadows darting closer, their edges sharp and defined. I turned, and just like that, the glass wall that had replaced our exit began to ripple, almost like a living thing. My heart raced, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. This way. I pulled my daughters toward another corridor, one that felt like a lifeline being thrown in a stormy sea. But the whispering voices were growing louder, clawing at my sanity. Help them, join us. The darkness pulled at my heels, breathless in its urgency. When I turned a corner, I stumbled and nearly fell. Something caught my eye, a door, slightly ajar. A sliver of hope flared in my chest. Quick! In here! I urged, shoving the girls ahead of me. As I started to follow, a chilling thought pierced the chaos. What if this wasn't a way out? The door swung closed with a heavy thud behind us, sealing off the abyss. The air felt electric, charged with something volatile, waiting to explode. I glanced around, looking for a sign of safety, but all I found was an empty room, walls lined with mirrors reflecting our terrified faces back at us, three lost souls in a house of horrors. My fingers trembled as I reached out, touching the cold surface of one mirror. With a sudden jolt, my reflection rippled, the image warping in a disturbing dance. What kind of nightmare is this? I gasped, but something was off. The reflections weren't just reflecting. They were moving, twitching unnaturally with rogue intentions. A dread certainty throbbed in my mind as I realized we weren't alone in this room after all, and then I heard it, a haunting whisper breaking through the air, echoing through the mirrors. You think you can escape? Each pulse of fear dwindled as confusion seized me. Where were the girls? I turned, scanning quickly, and they were gone? My heart flared with a dangerous panic. Girls! I called, desperation rising within me, choking my voice. The answer came through the mirrors, one by one, each reflecting twisted smiles and hollow eyes. Join us, they need you. What had I unleashed? And what lay waiting just beyond the boundaries of my grasp? The air in the room was electric. Panic surged through me as the reflections morphed, transforming into grotesque visions of my daughters, their faces contorted in expressions of fear and desperation. The laughter echoed louder, piercing through the thick layers of fear that coiled around my heart. You think you can escape? A voice taunted, dragging my thoughts into a dark abyss. I backed away, heart in my throat, the icy fingers of dread gripping me tightly. Girls! I screamed, my voice cracking, swallowed by the mockery of the laughing specters. Jenna! Sarah! But the weight of silence settled heavily over the room, thick as a storm cloud about to burst. Help us please echoed through the mirrors, the word morphing into haunting repetitions that reverberated against my skull. My breath quickened, panic clawed at my gut. I had to find them. I had to make sure they were safe somewhere, anywhere other than this hellish prison. Join us, the words lured me, a siren's call woven with despair. Each reflection gleamed malevolently, twisting my sense of reality. But deep down, I felt a flicker of hope. I couldn't let whatever this was win. They fed on fear, thriving on my anxiety. I had to counter their insidious magic. No! I shouted into the void, refusing to let their whispers take root in my thoughts. You want to take my girls? Determination surged in my veins like a fire ignited. I turned, searching the walls lined with mirrors, looking for any sign of an exit or a clue that could lead me back to Jenna and Sarah. What do you want? I called out defiantly. What do you gain from this? Silence fell again, thick and heavy, before a single reflection rippled and shattered, the glass scattering like shards of winter frost. As the pieces fell, a doorway emerged in the kaleidoscope of broken glass, dark and inviting yet filled with a sense of foreboding. Without hesitating, I plunged through the opening, heart racing. The moment I crossed into the new space, a bright light enveloped me. It was blinding, washing away the terrible echoes of the past. My eyes blinked rapidly, adjusting to this new world. A long, bright corridor stretched before me, the air warm and fresh. Jenna! Sarah! I shouted, the urgency in my voice twisting like a knife. I raced down the corridor, my footsteps echoing against the bright tiles, the sterile scent of disinfectant bringing me brief comfort. Suddenly, as if on cue, I heard their voices, gentle yet filled with panic. Daddy! They called, desperation laced with relief, pulling at my heartstrings. I sprinted toward the source, driven by sheer will. Bursting into the next room, I found them huddled together, eyes wide with fear, just on the other side of a thick glass wall. The sight made my heart lurch. I rushed forward, pressing my palms against the cool surface, anguish flooding me at the sight of their fear. Girls! I gasped, barely able to contain the wave of relief washing over me. Daddy! Help us! Jenna's voice trembled as she pressed her small hands against the glass. I could see the flickering lights surrounding them, shadows flitting but always just beyond the light's reach. I'm coming. I promise. I shouted, scanning the room for a way to break through. But the structure felt impenetrable, a cruel barrier holding them captive. Find a way. Sarah cried, her little face damp with tears, echoing my own sense of desperation. As if in response, a low rumble filled the air, shaking the glass around them. No. My fear ignited again, realizing time was running out. The shadows were closing in, and they had to be stopped. With a surge of instinct, I turned back toward the corridor where I had entered. There had to be a way, a connection, a bridge between us. I spotted the shards of glass still sparking on the floor, the last remnants of the mirror room. Maybe, somehow, their magic would work for us this time. Stay close. I called back to my girls, rushing to the broken fragments. This is it. We can do this. Adrenaline shot through me as I pieced the shards together, forming a makeshift portal of distorted reflections. The air hummed with energy as light enveloped the fragments, and I pressed one palm against the center of the shards. We're a family. Together. I exclaimed, the power of my love fueling the incantation. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted, illuminating the room and severing the darkness that threatened to consume us. With a rush, my daughters stumbled into my arms, gasping. Relief washed over all three of us like a cleansing tide. We're okay. I breathed, my heart swelling as I held them tight. The echoes of fear faded like an afternoon storm, leaving behind a bright, clear path where shadows had once danced. In that moment, the connection between us surged stronger than ever. The truth had been revealed, and our strength as a family was the sunlight breaking through the darkness. As I looked back, dim shapes loomed in the distance, hints of the horrors we had faced, but I felt no fear. Together, we could confront anything. Hand in hand, we stepped forward, leaving behind the nightmare, ready to embrace the dawn of whatever awaited us next. A family grounded in love, stronger than any fear. But as we turned toward the exit of the hospital, a quiet voice whispered back to me from the shadows, "You escaped, but remember, I'll always be watching." The realization settled over me, marking the truth of our escape. They may have been behind us, but we were free. And together, always together, we would remain unbreakable. Now, as the sun peeked through the morning sky, we stepped into a new world. Listen up, guys. This is the moment to show your support. If you loved this ending, and I mean you really loved it, you need to subscribe right now. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. We want to hear from all of you.